maybe the biggest adjustment wasn't the differences in my life there and here, like in Malaysia, but rather more in transitioning away from all of the people that I met there.
Welcome to the Budget Minded Traveler podcast, your source for the everyday inspiration and practical tips that make international travel accessible to everyone. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Budget Minded Traveler podcast. I'm Jackie Nurse, and today we have Maddy Wolfe joining us to catch up on everything that we have missed, which is a lot since we last chatted with her. Maddy has actually been on the show twice before. She's the one who up and moved to Israel after college to teach English. So her story should sound familiar to you. Today we get to hear about how the rest of her year in Israel went, what it was like going home after that, and what she did next, which was apply to the Fulbright program and spend a year teaching English in Asia. She's back from that now, so we have several topics that we're getting into today to attempt to capture all of that time within one podcast episode. Before we get into that, I just want to mention that I am in the middle of putting out a bunch of details for my group trips for 2019. I just opened up registration for my second Ladies Adventure Retreat in Ecuador, which is happening in February. Plus, I'm adding some new dates and destinations for Patagonia next year. And I'll be sharing details for my next bucket list trip soon as well. This year, we did the bucket list trip to Jordan, which you've just heard about in episodes 94 and 95. And next year, I have something else super epic and fun up my sleeve. So go check out travelingjackie.com/trips to see what's happening and subscribe there to be first to find out about new announcements and updates. I have a dedicated email list just for trip updates, and it's the best place to be to not miss any announcements. So make sure you're on it if you're interested in traveling with me. And I hope that you are. These group trips are my absolute new favorite thing in the world. It is the coolest thing to get to connect with you guys in person and become real friends and get to experience such amazing things together. So I really can't wait to meet some more of you on these group trips soon. All right, this was such a good conversation. I hope that you guys enjoy this as much as I did. It is my pleasure to reintroduce you to Maddy, who is home from her latest adventure. So let's see what she has to say now after spending 2 years teaching English overseas. We're so grateful to Osprey Packs for partnering with us and supporting the podcast, so please stay tuned for more about them later on. I have an opportunity for you to join me in real life for some real travel. Here's the latest Jump Adventures update. We are going to Greece for a bike and boat island hopping adventure this May 9th to 16th, 2025, and we still have space left. Check out jumpadventures.com to learn more and book now. We're going to have a yacht all to ourselves with ensuite cabins on board, so you get to sleep in the same bed every night as we start in Athens and make our way west toward the island of Corfu. You'll have your own bike for the week, e-bike if you want one, for cycling the islands as we go, in between meals crafted by our private chef on board, and all the relaxing you want to do on the top deck under the Mediterranean sun. These bike and boat adventures are our most carefree and relaxed trips. All you have to do is say yes and show up, and there's still space. Head over to jumpadventures.com to grab your spot now, and we'll see you there. All right, we are back on the line with Maddy Wolfe, whom you guys will remember from 2 different episodes. She was on for episode number 66 and number 77. She was actually part of the before and after series that we did. And we're bringing her back today to catch up on so many things that have happened since the last time that we chatted. So Maddy, I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back. I feel like we have a lot to talk about today. I have a lot of updates I can't wait to share with everyone.
Yes, I know. We've just been like chatting for a few minutes. I'm like, I have to hit record because I can't ask you anything until we're like recording because there's so many things that I want to know about what's going on. What's going on.
And I think it's also cool because people have kind of been following my journey a little bit. So maybe they'll be interested to hear what some new updates I have and everything.
Definitely. I mean, so let's just recap real quick. When we first met you, you were still in college.
I was.
You were just a wee lass.
Long time ago.
Yeah. I think it was 2.5 years ago or so that we first did an episode. And we were talking about how you could not wait to get out. And you had set up a job to go teach English in Israel.
Yes.
And so we were talking about that in the first episode. That's episode 66. And then in 77, we caught you 6 months or so into your year in Israel and got to talk a little bit about that and how it had been for you. Yep. And wow. Okay. When was that? It would have been a year and a half ago.
Yeah. I think I was still because I think I remember recording it in my apartment in Tel Aviv. So I was still there.
Yeah. And now, how cool is this? Okay, so we'll nutshell it and then we'll unpack it. How about that?
Yeah.
So what did you do since then?
Since we talked on that episode, this is going to sound, very strange to just send this recap in 2 seconds, but I moved to Malaysia. And on this Fulbright grant that I applied for, which we can discuss. And I was there teaching at a Malaysian secondary school in a rural community. And now I'm back.
There you go. That's the nutshell. Okay. Yeah. So let's just go way back first. When you left Israel, you were still pretty gung-ho to keep going, right? Meaning, and what I mean by that is, to not just return home and stay and find a new normal at home, but to continue pursuing travel as a lifestyle, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yes. And so you went back home for the summer. Actually, it was longer than a summer, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 6 months or so.
Okay. And what did that look like for you? What did it feel like to be home?
Yeah. So when I returned home, I had already gotten my acceptance to this grant that I had applied for to go to Malaysia. And so when I returned home, I knew January 1st, I was leaving. And so I think that helped in the transition a little bit because it wasn't like I was coming back indefinitely, didn't know what to do. It was, okay, I have 6 months at home. I had missed home a lot. It had been over a year since I had been back. And so it was really nice. And it was nice to be in that familiarity temporarily again. And I felt like the transition was pretty smooth. And now fast forward that I've had another transitioning home from being in Malaysia, which has been a complete roller coaster of a transition. I look back on the one from when I moved back from Israel and I kind of marvel at how, I guess, easy it was or how nice it was. And I think maybe the biggest adjustment wasn't the differences in my life there and here, like in Malaysia, but rather more in transitioning away from all of the people that I met there. Because in Israel, I had a community, I had a group of friends, I had my language lessons I went to every week. I had, I had things set up. And so I think it was more of, transitioning from not being around them and more of the question of, okay, here I met these people that were life-changing and that were really important to me and are important to me. And now I'm not around them anymore. And will I ever see them again? And it was more wrestling with those kind of questions as opposed to walking into a Target and being oh my gosh, can buy absolutely anything in this store,
Yeah. Reverse culture shock. Whoa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh so, yeah.
I think you hit on, you hit on a couple of the hugest things about returning home. And I feel like I knew that this is what this episode was going to have a lot to talk about was returning home.
Yes.
But there's one thing that you didn't really just mention just there.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, and this is the the what's next question, because it makes returning home after a long year abroad way harder if you don't know what you're doing next. If you don't have a plan, it's like you get into this funk, this like, it's depressing. And it's like, where did I go? Like what's going on? Where am I? Who am I? Like what is this life and what's next? And how do I combine where I am with what I've experienced and not lose it? And where am I going next? And how do I just adjust back to quote unquote normal life, you know? And I mean, that's a huge element that you actually did not have the first time, because you already had this second trip set up. You knew what you were doing. You had a deadline. You knew that what you were doing was temporary. And I think that probably played a pretty big role in your coming home. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree. And actually, I think that this is something that I thinking about what I wanted to say today in our conversation. This was something that I definitely wanted to touch on, in that I feel like those moments when I was home after Israel, that in those moments that seemed really long, or those moments where Malaysia seemed so far away, was I ever going to be over there? You know, and those moments where I was like, okay, I'm sitting in my living room, which I grew up in. I just want to get out and explore the world and stuff. It helped in thinking about the values surrounding travel that I do have. Like, why do I like to travel? What broad values do those satisfy for me? And try to experience them in the Twin Cities as much as I could while I was here, such as exploring new places or trying new things or getting outside of my comfort zone. And I sort of examined those and was like, okay, there has to be ways of experiencing those things in Minneapolis that I could experience that could help me with that. And so I would do that. I would go and see new places. I would have days where I didn't work. And so I worked at a restaurant. And so days where I wasn't working, and I would do this thing called, this might seem a little woo woo, but doing this thing called, I would follow the path of most excitement. And so I would make up okay, what sounds exciting to me in this moment? And a lot of times it was doing things I hadn't done or seeing things I hadn't seen around the Twin Cities. And that definitely helped with passing time of feeling like I was stuck waiting for this thing to happen.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I love that. I love the path of most excitement.
I know, right? Yeah.
That sounds really fun. And a really good question, because travel, or something to ask yourself, what is it that you really want to do right now? What would excite you? Because travel is exciting. It is very exciting. I mean, everything, for better or for worse, it excites you. Everything you do is an adventure, even if it's just going down the street to find breakfast. I mean, when you're in a foreign culture, language, everything is different. Everything is exciting and exhausting and adventurous. And so that is, I love that. I actually, to speak to that, since we're on this subject, because there are a couple of things that I like to do as well. This doesn't really apply to me anymore. I haven't felt this way in several years. But back when I did have a more of a permanent home base, and I would just take little trips and come back, two of the things that I really loved to do when I felt myself getting into that funk were, one, I would pick up a book that had some sort of adventure that took place somewhere real. And the first thing that comes to mind for this, I love Dan Brown. Dan Brown is such a great companion he's such a great writer, and he takes you to a place, all of his books take place somewhere. And so you get to experience this place through a mystery thriller kind of exciting adventure. And I mean, I would sit down with a book and be gone all weekend and feel like I just took a huge adventure. And it really actually truly deeply helped me. It like changed my mindset a little bit and helped me like go on a little adventure, even though I probably didn't even leave my couch.
Yeah.
That and the other thing that I used to find really fun to do is to recreate a sort of an experience that you had overseas. Something that's easy to do with that is just a meal. So we would have like, we'd call them like German nights or Italian nights, where we'd just go and we'd buy a bunch of, food or whatever it is that we can make that's like totally German. We'd like put on our dirndl and later and like put on like German music, or we'd do the Italian route. We'd make pizza, we'd have like olive oil, and we'd just do Italian things. And it was fun. It was like kind of a little escape, like in your own kitchen. It's a real thing. This reverse well, it's not necessarily reverse culture shock. It's this funk of being home afterwards where totally. You can't leave yet.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I love that. That could be like a whole podcast episode topic, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like it could. I don't know if I've talked about that on this show before. Yeah. I now have to think through a lot of episodes. I don't remember, but that's something I've kind of always done. I'm glad that you brought that up though, because you need to fill that time without losing your, I guess it's like the lust for the wander. It's like you can't lose the draw, the high energy. So good for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, let's talk real quick about the whole Fulbright thing, because that's interesting to me. I actually don't know anyone else who's done this. And I've been asking you about it, like since you did it, like what made you want to do this? How did you find out? Like, how did you even think about it? Where did you apply for it? What does that entail? What does that even look like? Tell us everything.
Okay. So the Fulbright program is a program funded by the U.S. Department of State. And they have two, I think they're most known for their research grants. My mom did one in Russia when my parents were living there, and my dad was doing his PhD research there. And your
parents lived in Russia. What?
Yeah, I know. Wow. Sorry, throwing in that tidbit of information. That was before I was born. My sister was like 3 or something.
Oh, wow.
And so you apply for a grant to go to another country that's related to your dissertation topic or something like that. You spend I don't know how long it is for research. I think I know my parents were there a year, but I think it could be longer or shorter. And you do research there. So they have one for research grants, which I think is their most popular one, that if you talk to someone about what Fulbright is, that's what they probably think about. But then they also have this other program called the English Teaching Assistant Program, where you apply to a specific country. So you cannot put like your top 3 or whatever. And so you apply to a specific country, and then the U.S. State Department reviews your application, and then they send applicants through to the Ministry of Education of the country that you are applying to. And then that country reviews your application and selects the applicants that they want to come over to their country. And so we lived in you're placed in rural communities and teaching English at I think it's primary or secondary schools. I think maybe even universities in some countries, but in Malaysia, it's secondary schools, which means it's like age 13 to age 17 or so. And you're fully immersed in the culture. I was the only foreigner in my town. So that's a little background, I guess. And they have these programs all over the world. I want to say it's like 60 something countries, but I guess I'm not completely sure about that, but I'm pretty sure it's like 60 something countries that they have them in. But so that's a little background, I guess.
Okay. And how did you choose Malaysia?
Yeah, great question. I actually get that question a lot. People are like, why did you go there?
Yeah.
So like I said, you have to apply to one country. You can't apply to a handful or whatever. And so my world, the world was basically my oyster. You know, it was like, how do I decide? But I'd first narrowed it down by the regions of the world that I hadn't ever been before. So I had never been to Asia and I had never been to South America. And so I sort of narrowed it down to those two places. And I looked on the Fulbright website, they have tons of this information. And so I looked at all the South American countries that they have available. And they have a requirement that you have to be proficient in Spanish to apply. And I know French, but I know French, but I don't know any Spanish. And so I had to cross those off my list. So then that sort of led me to Asia as a whole, which is a gigantic place, as we know. And then I sort of narrowed it down to Southeast Asia because I had never been there before. And I thought maybe I could do some traveling around there either before, after, during my time in Malaysia. And then a few things led me to Malaysia. One was we have a really good family friend who did his PhD research in Malaysia. And so I had heard him, briefly talk about it growing up. And it always seemed like this sort of foreign place to me. And then I took some Islamic art and architecture classes in college, and they were definitely some of my favorite classes that I ever took. And Malaysia is a Muslim country. And so I thought that could be interesting to explore further, since I had that interest. Also coming from Israel, and seeing that juxtaposition of, religions and cultures and stuff that I had just experienced. And then the last sort of reason was, after doing more research into Malaysia itself, I learned that Malaysia has three main ethnicities there. You have Indian Malay, Chinese Malay, and then Malay people. And so I thought that sounded interesting and cool to kind of experience those cultures and how they intersect and stuff. And it turns out that you see that a lot in religion. Like there's a mosque next to a Hindu temple in Malaysia, and also in the food as well. Like each culture has their own specialties and stuff. And so that was really neat to experience. And they also have a lot of Fulbright ETAs, as we called ourselves, English teaching assistants, had kept blogs of their time there. And so I also read so many blogs of when I was deciding between, Thailand or Malaysia and all this stuff. And so those were super helpful too, because I kind of got to see where I would maybe be living or what the culture would be like or what their experience was.
This is funny. I think I want to say this out loud. It's funny that our call has just dropped twice. Everybody listening. And It's funny. It's ironic because right when we got on the Skype call at the very beginning, we were both like, oh my gosh, our internet is so good. We're in the United States. Like we can make this call happen and we can use video and all these things. And now we've dropped the call twice in the United States.
Yep. Go figure.
Yeah. This has only happened to me like a few, maybe a handful of times ever in the history of 100 episodes. So anyway,
karma, whatever.
Yeah. We'll come right back to that. Let's take a moment now to thank our wonderful show sponsors. Osprey is the market leader in technical outdoor, travel, and everyday packs. And I've personally used Osprey packs since 2015. My favorites are the Fairview Trek 50 for multi-day hikes, the Cirrus 24 for day hikes, the Transporter Rolling Duffel 60, which is my trusty check luggage for faraway adventures, and of course, the countless packing cubes I use to organize everything that goes in them. We are proud to support each other on the podcast and beyond. We love getting outside, and we want to see more people outdoors. So find out more and join us at osprey.com. So you were saying that you were using people's blogs to help you decide that that Malaysia was going to be your place. And I think that's really cool because yay for blogs. It's so nice to see a personal experience.
Definitely.
it really helps you gain insight into what it's really like there. Not just like, oh, here are the top 10 things to do. It's like, this is where I buy my groceries. And this is what it feels like to live here. And So you can pick it up there.
Yes. Great. So I decided on Malaysia, applied, found out I was a semi-finalist when I was in Israel, and then found out I was a finalist. And so I knew I wasn't leaving until January. They told us that right when we got into the program. And so that kind of, although I didn't know, there were some things that I didn't know until I got there, such as where I was going to be placed. They don't tell us that until we arrive. So we had about 3 weeks in Kuala Lumpur, and then we moved to our placement. So I was in, I think it's the biggest state. I feel like if we have any Malaysians listening, they'll be like, Maddie, come on. But I think it was the biggest state on the peninsula, called Pahang, Pahang. And I was on the eastern coast of Pahang. So right on the coast of the peninsula. Malaysia's split up into 2 land areas. And it was about 3.5-hour drive from Kuala Lumpur. The nearest Fulbrighter to me was about a little over 2-hour drive from me. And there was a pretty good sized city, called Kuantan, about an hour north of me. So that's where I would they had a Starbucks there, and I'm a big coffee drinker. So like, that's where I got my French press and beans and, like little comforts from home.
I have to say too, Starbucks overseas is like amazing. I mean, I rarely actually drink Starbucks at home. Just never. You just don't do it. Like usually you drink local or whatever. But overseas, I'm like, oh, big coffee. Give me all the coffee. I love seeing Starbucks overseas.
Yeah, totally. The Starbucks banana chocolate chip muffins and their coffee was like a treat that I reveled in over there. Yeah. Same with, this is weird to say, but same with McDonald's. So Malaysia is like, there was a McDonald's right outside of my little town, and it was the cleanest McDonald's I probably have ever seen in my life. People would like go there to hang out. They sold funny. There's this Malaysian drink called teh tarik, and it's sort of like similar to what Americans think of as chai, sort of. And they had it at McDonald's. They had it was just quite the experience. This McDonald's was amazing. Yes. Like people would be like, people from home would be like, oh, where do you hang out? And I'd be like, well, just go to McDonald's.
That's so good. That's hilarious. Did they call this drink McTarik or something?
That's like the most creative thing I've ever heard, but no, they didn't. I don't know why they didn't.
Being so serious, because actually this is a funny subject. McDonald's is fascinating overseas as well, because they always, this is actually something really, really cool about McDonald's, is they almost always that I have seen, not like I frequent a lot of McDonald's, but when I happen to be in them, they always have something local. I mean, we're so used to what we see on the menu at McDonald's in the United States. Yeah. And so when you go to, McDonald's in other countries, they have in Costa Rica, they have McPinto, which is like, it's the breakfast. It's gallo pinto, which is like the rice and beans. And they have McPinto on the menu in McDonald's.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It's so interesting to see how they include the other cultures in their menu. It's not just burgers and fries.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of burgers and fries in other countries and McDonald's, I know that's a lot of things, I guess. But so maybe the most famous, well-known Malaysian dish, when at school, when I'd ask the kids, "What's your favorite food?" they would all say nasi lemak, and nasi means rice in Malay, and lemak, I'm pretty sure, means fat. And so it's basically rice cooked in coconut milk. And then I think there was like half a hard boiled egg, sambal, which is like this chili paste. I think sometimes they have anchovies on top. And then you would also, I guess, have like a piece of fried chicken or something. And it would be wrapped in a banana leaf. So that's like the typical Malaysian breakfast. And I feel like all the kids' favorite food and stuff. But anyway, at McDonald's, there was the nasi lemak burger.
Oh, yes. Now we're talking.
I know. And I'm a vegetarian, so I never tried it, but it was intriguing. Nasi lemak burger.
I wonder, did they put like the rice, the cocoa milk, like on the burger or the chili paste?
Like, I don't know. Maybe they had
wrapped it in a banana leaf.
Yeah. Maybe like a piece of fried chicken but I don't know what they would have done with the rice. I think there might have been like coconut sauce or something. I don't know. I'll have to ask Malaysian friends over there to describe it, and I'll get back to you guys.
Yeah.
Listeners, message me on Facebook and I'll let you know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's so cool.
I know.
And so random. Okay, so back to where you were living. Yeah. This is an hour from McDonald's, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you like your little town? What was it like living there? I mean, was it lonely? Like, what were some of your favorites and some of your not favorites about it?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest change that I had to kind of adapt to was like what there was to do around me, I suppose, like in Minneapolis, I mean, there's constantly things to do, play anywhere in the US, probably, I guess, and even when I was in Israel, Tel Aviv is like this hip cosmopolitan city. I lived right by the beach, just all these things. But in my town, there really wasn't a whole lot to do after school or like when I wasn't in school. There was like a few grocery stores. There was actually a KFC there, although like I said, I'm a vegetarian, so I never, frequented that. But as a result, it definitely was lonely. And I feel like even kind of talking about it, like it's a pretty touchy subject, in that the loneliness was pretty crushing at times. And a good friend on Fulbright actually made a really good point of, when I had visited her, we discussed the difference between loneliness and aloneness, I think, or loneliness and solitude, whatever I guess is the best word. And I feel like what I was experiencing was loneliness, was kind of like negative connotation of the feeling. And I tried to at times think of it in a positive way, I guess, that like this is a really special time in my life where I, I'm truly can focus on myself. I have no one else calling my attention, nowhere else calling my attention, like I have nowhere else to be. And I feel like I would go in and out through that successful kind of change in those feelings. Sometimes I would think to myself like, oh, wow, I feel so lucky to have this time with myself. And then there are other times where I was like, please, another human, like I just need someone else, and I can be a pretty anxious person. And I felt like I had everything pretty under control before I left. Like I knew if I was starting to feel nervous or anxious, like some tools I knew what to do that would usually help me. But in Malaysia, I feel like it sort of got out of control at some points. And so that was really scary. And also, wrestling with all of that was going on. But then at the same time, still being grateful for being there and wanting to, be as present with the kids as I could be. And I was the only foreigner in my town. So I feel like, and for a lot of the kids, I was the first foreigner that they had seen. And so I feel like I wanted to be a good cultural ambassador, but then I sometimes struggled with my own things that I was going through. And so it was, I think it was probably the hardest thing that I had ever done. And it's something that I didn't know how to prepare for and that I feel like is hard to prepare for. And I think a lot of it was luck of the draw. Like some people were placed in bigger towns, or some people, I was placed where you're placed in pairs, but I haven't mentioned my roommate because she left after a couple months to go home for a certain reason. And so it depends, like if you're placed with someone who you really get along with, like there are lots of things that just sort of are not up to you, you know?
Yeah.
And that's hard. And I have a pretty type A personality. So I feel like I like to be in control of a lot of things, which I think in part of, traveling is learning how to let go of that control. And I think that that's something I've learned to enjoy and kind of explore over the years. But I think this was an experience where like on a whole nother level that I just did not have a lot of control over anything. So not to turn conversation like a negative downturn, but
no, but this is the reality.
Yeah.
This is such a reality. I mean, as you're talking, I'm sitting over here like, yep. Yep. Like I'm so with you on this. Like I get it. Yeah. And the strangest maybe part about all of this is we signed up for this. Yes. This is exactly what we asked for. We said, I'm going to go do this, no matter what, rain or shine, basically. And it both come, both of those things come, and the highs and lows. I mean, that's where you experience the growth, the change, like the observation, the real challenges, the real part of life. Like it comes out of these lows. And I mean, I had a time last winter, I don't know, about a year and a half ago that I was feeling, I mean, and this still stays with me, but the lonely thing is so very real. It's so very real. When you're a solo traveler who generally likes other humans,
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, I wrote a whole big like essay, like post about loneliness, because we need community as people. Like, just innately, like we crave community, and it is one of the biggest challenges when you find yourself in a foreign culture where you don't speak the language. I mean, this could even happen in your own backyard. Like I'm not saying you can't feel lonely right at home, like, cause that absolutely happens too. But it's kind of magnified when you completely uproot yourself and just put yourself out there. And it's, of course we get lonely. I mean, people ask me that sometimes and I'm like, really? Like, what do you think I am? Like, I'm not Superwoman. Like, of course I get lonely. And that's like an understatement. I get lonely. Like it's part of it. It's part of being a solo traveler. It's part of, any kind of travel really. Like when you're completely removed from everything, you're the only foreigner in your whole town. Like that has got to be incredibly lonely sometimes. You don't have that person you can just go grab a glass of wine with and just unload, like you don't have that. That's a lot of solo time. It's like, oh, look, it's me and a beer again.
Yes.
How long do I have to do this? Yeah.
At McDonald's. Completely.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I feel like I really missed, I had some really incredible friends in Malaysia, like other Fulbrighters that were such a good family to me over there. And even like the people in my town, I loved them dearly and stuff. But with all of that being said, I missed, people from home who I feel like I really connected with and like really good friends. And, that comes with time, like making new people like that wherever you are. And I guess I just missed, that was one of the things that came out of all this time by myself, was like, I missed having those people, even though I did have, really kind people in my community and other friends like hours away and stuff.
Oh, it's so different though.
Totally. I feel like I started to rely on, I'm dating someone here in the Twin Cities, and I started seeing him before I left. And so like I was in this long distance relationship.
Oh, so hard.
And at times I feel like I fully relied on him to like fill me up inside, like if we like couldn't do a Skype call, or if he wasn't writing me back, like little petty stuff that normally wouldn't affect me, I feel like really got to me, or I would like start crying or something, just like these irrational emotions that started manifesting. And now that I'm back, I think I look back on that and I kind of realized that why I was acting that way was because I was craving this human interaction that he, as someone who I would talk to frequently, happens to be the person, technologically closest to me at that moment. And so I would rely on him for all of that. And that's more than one person can ever do, you know? And I think that being home, like transitioning to, or maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, I feel like, because I was going to start talking about transitioning to being back. But I think that transitioning to being home, I still sort of had some of that in me, like I was still he has a whole life here. And I feel like I was expecting him and my family and everything to, I guess, like, I don't know, like if they had something going on, I would like irrationally get upset and stuff. And I think that I kind of realized that I went through this like strange low-key trauma, of like being by myself every single day for 7 hours, after school. And so once I started like surrounding myself with friends again and stuff like that, then that feeling started to go away. But so that was something else that I was wrestling with. And I feel like that feels pretty vulnerable to discuss, especially on the podcast with lots of people are going to hear.
Okay. That's what we do here.
Yeah. But I feel like that was something that like I had never experienced before that was so unlike me, that kind of manifested in a very strange way.
First of all, thank you for sharing that, because it is very vulnerable, but it's so real. I mean, I'm honestly sitting over here, like I almost teared up just now listening to you talk about that, because it hits me so like and like I said, I mean, I might've written that loneliness post like a while ago, but like that stays with me, and I actually have been struggling with that like this summer even. And I mean, I'm not afraid to talk about this. Like, this is human. Like, this is real. Yeah, this is travel. This is what it is, And I mean, I remember getting back this summer and it took me, I'm in Montana this summer, and it took me like probably a good month to readjust to like just trying to recover here after just being on the go so much this year. It was really exhausting for me. And I got back and I'm like, Montana summer, like you go all out because you get like 2 months of summer in Montana, And so that's what I was doing. And I'm like, I can't handle this. But so there was like the physical part that I didn't really let myself recover. And then at the same exact time, here I am at home surrounded by people who love me, people I love, my friends, my brother's here. And there are so many nights still that like, I'll like see if someone wants to hang out. And it's like this whole idea of like, we have 2 months to have summer. Like we need to do something every single day, And I'm like, if I don't have a plan today, I'm like wasting my time at home. It's a weird mindset. It's very weird because this is supposed to be my break kind of, my summertime.
Really?
And yet I feel like it's like I have to fill these days. And if someone's not there to like hang out with me, I'm like, man, I'm at home and I'm still alone, like
Totally.
WTF. Like,
Completely.
Oh man.
Yep.
But it's
right
just
there.
part of it. Like, this is just where we are. Like, this is where we are. This is what we've signed up for. And it's real life, and And there's always something to be learned. And, it's really like, we're okay.
Yeah, definitely.
We're okay. Totally. I get on my paddleboard and go paddleboarding. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I love it. And it's a damn good thing. I like hanging out with myself, I've learned to do that. And it's a big, important step in this life to appreciate your own company. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But so I totally understand. I completely see you on that community thing. I mean, the relationships that you make when you're overseas often are so surface.
Yep.
And there's only so much you can do with that. There's only so far that you can take a surface relationship. Sometimes you just need someone who gets you. Yep. And I say this, I feel like I've been saying this a lot lately. It freaking takes a village, man. It takes a village.
I know. I so know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So loneliness, check. Let's move on.
That was a big one.
Yeah. So here's the big question then. What's next for you? Do you have a next? What are you doing now? You just went from one huge adventure to the next, and now you're home. What's happening?
Yeah. Okay. So I do have an answer to this, and it feels good to have an answer to this. Uh-huh. But okay, so when I graduated college, I thought that I might be interested in education, but my degree is in English literature, not from the School of Education. So I don't have a teaching license or anything like that, or an ESL license or anything. And so I always thought, okay, if I wanted to do this, I'd have to go back to school. And I feel really lucky that the past 2 years, I was able to explore that, to not jump right into graduate school or something like that, and see if this was something that I wanted to do. And drum roll, just kidding. It's something that I realize I definitely want to go into, and I am so excited about it. And so I need to go back to school. So that's my plan. Wow. I need to go get my teaching license, and I'm looking at the University of Minnesota's program. And so, so that's the plan. But the program, the deadline is in December. It's currently, when we're recording this, it's currently August. And so the program, if I got in, wouldn't start until the springtime. And so I have, again, some months where I'm like, Yeah. And I've worked in a restaurant before, and I really enjoyed that. I loved interacting with people all the time and stuff as an extrovert. But I ideally wanted to do something in a school, I thought, since that's what I wanted to do. And my high school here, I reached out to them when I returned and was like, hey, if, are there any open positions or people leaving for a little bit that I could fill in for? And there was. Amazing. And so I applied for this position in the middle school in the administration office, and I got that. So I'll be working temporarily. The woman is gone from August until December. So
wow, how perfect is that? Wow.
I know, right? Wow. It's like the stars were aligned. I feel like that this was meant to be. And so I'm filling in for her. And I'm super excited about it. Just strictly speaking, in terms of being back at my high school. So I went to a small private high school here in the Twin Cities, and being back on the other side of things has just been so cool and so rewarding. I feel like, in, I guess, experiencing things as a student that I don't think I appreciated as a student, all the work that gets put into classes and time and the school year. And so that's been fun. And a lot of my teachers are still there.
That's so weird.
I know, right? They'll be like,
"Oh, hey, so weird."
I'm like, "Oh, hey."
Now they're like your colleagues. That's
so
weird.
I know. Am I referred to as Miss Wolfe? That's weird, I guess. But and so so that's the plan. So I'm working out at the school for a little while, and then going to graduate school to get my teaching license. And so it worked out really well, and I'm really excited about this plan. And I feel like I'm also pretty impatient simply because I have had 2 years of experience after graduating college. And so I'm kind of just impatient to have my own classroom, to get that certification and stuff. But of course, all good things come to those who wait, or whatever the saying is. So it'll be good. But so that's my plan at the moment. And in terms of traveling, I think that my attitude towards travel has had to shift a little bit, I guess. I think that when I graduated college, and there's nothing wrong with this mindset that I had, but I think that it was more, I'm trying to think of the right metaphor. Like, it just felt like I was running a race and I couldn't stop, like I wanted to keep going. Like, I wanted to keep traveling and I wanted to find something else and everything. But now I kind of realize that adventure and traveling are definitely some of my important values that I have that are important to me for the rest of my life, and not just like a span of a few years where I'm like, how can I keep this going for as long as I can, and that it's more of like a thing that I need to learn how to experience sustainably for a while, if that makes any sense, like
Absolutely.
That I need to take time. Yeah, like that I need to take some time to check a few boxes that would enable me to continue somewhere else in the future, or that would make things easier for me going forward, while still having that, zest for traveling and seeing the world that isn't going to be going away, I don't believe, anytime soon.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
I know.
Man, I love this so much. It's so cool to hear this, because I'm just thinking back to our previous conversations on the podcast, so people can think back to them as well, or go listen to them. But I feel like, I mean, okay, so I haven't listened to them. I mean, I rarely actually listen back to my own episodes, but I feel like I remember from our first conversation, you're like, this is not for me. I don't want to just jump into this. I need to go. I'm ready. Yes. Like, get me out of here. Like, and I understand that. Like, I totally understand that, that phase, Yep. And I feel like this has really come full circle for you, because now you have a totally different perspective on the exact same thing, which is grad school, which is getting that teacher's certificate. But, and I just got chills. Now you know why you want to do it. You've been out there, you explored, inward, outward, and now you're going onward with something that makes sense for your future, for your passion. You like it, and it's going to be able to sustain you. And it's like, it's such a cool piece of the foundation for, I guess, your path. That you're back to deciding, this is what I need. Here's why. This is what I'm doing with it. This is where I can go with it. I mean, and also you just said that phrase that good things come to those who wait. Yeah. And I think better things come to those who get off their asses and go find it, like, and that's what you did. Really, that's what you did. Like, you didn't just wait. Are you kidding me? No way. Like, you put yourself out there. All of these opportunities that you have come because you acted. You did something. You stood up. You made that first connection with the person you knew in Israel who ended up getting you the job. Like, all these things, you looked up the Fulbright, like, you put yourself out there, and you called your school and said, hey, do you guys have an opening? You're not waiting around, Maddy, like, you're making things happen. And I love that. I love to see that all of this path that you've had is coming around to, like, this is what you've accomplished, and this is why, and this is where you're going. And you are destined for adventure. Like, it's going to work. And
oh my
I'm
gosh.
proud of you.
I have tears in my eyes.
Oh.
You're the sweetest. Yeah, you're so right. I need people to tell me that,
Yeah.
I feel like when we think of, go inward, it's sometimes hard to see that ourselves. And so it's really special to be reminded of that.
Mm. Yeah. It's still going to be hard.
Of course.
Yeah. It's still going to be hard, but now you're saying yes to this hard work, and the rewards are great. So
that's true.
Good for you.
Thank you. I'm really glad that I could come on again and that people could, hear my full story. Not that my story's
over. Yeah, right.
Over, but,
yeah.
This thread story, I guess, that people have been following, I suppose. But
no, it's super cool. I'm really happy that that we're both in a place to make this call happen, even if it took a few tries.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right away.
But,
yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we just got cut off again.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, I was just basically wishing you the best. And maybe we should end this before Skype blows up our computers, because I don't know what's happening. But
I know.
Okay. Maddy, one last thing. Where can people find you if they would like to find you? Are you on, do you want to share your Instagram or something?
Certainly. Yeah. So I'm on Instagram, big Instagram lover and user, at @silkwolfe. So M as in Maddy, silk like the fabric, wolf like my last name, WOLFE.
Okay. Cool.
Yes. I belong to the Budget Minded Traveler Facebook group. So you can also find me on there too, if you wanted to reach out with a message or anything, if people wanted to say hi.
Cool. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, great. This has been awesome. I appreciate your time, and I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to see where you go next.
Thanks. I feel really lucky and everything that we were able to connect all those years ago.
Yes, me too. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. To connect with all you guys out there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, yeah, next time. Okay. We didn't even mention this, but there was that one time that we actually got to meet in person when I was passing through Minneapolis. We're going to have to make that happen again, because that was really fun.
For sure. That's not an if, that's a when.
That's a when. Yes, that's right. All right. Until then, Maddy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie. It was so wonderful to talk.
All right. Talk to you soon. Okay, guys, I have good news. We don't have to wait to see what a nasi lemak burger looks like, because I found a photo of it and shared it on the show notes page. And I have to say, it actually looks really good. I put a few other notes from today's episode there as well, including the link to that loneliness piece that I told you I wrote a while back. You can find all of that on the show notes page at thebudgetmindedtraveler.com/97. Whew. Oh, and some more good news. Actually, this is a huge milestone in the life of the BMT podcast. I want to give a shout out to you right now, because somewhere around episode 95, we hit over 1 million lifetime downloads for this podcast. 1 million. For not even having 100 episodes yet. That's huge for this one woman show. So thank you so much for listening, for your continued support. If you ever want to say hi to me, you can find me on Instagram at Traveling Jackie. Leave me a comment, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. We are counting down to episode 100. We have a couple more BMT favorites from over the years joining us. I'm wondering if you can guess who they are, but I guess you'll be finding out soon enough. So until next time, safe and happy travels. Thank you for listening.